And it's time for our Mohawk movie review with Dana Han-Klein. Now, we always say we love Dana's Mohawk. It's our favorite. So we decided that we would rate the movies by Mohawks. 0 being the worst, 5 being the best movie ever, which is really hard to get to. But Dana's got some movies for us as it's the holiday season. Dana, what would you like to review today?
So we are heading into Oscar season, which is my favorite and least favorite season. And because of that, there aren't any huge movies coming out this week. So we're going to talk about Lion, which is coming out in limited release. It came out over Thanksgiving. It's opening wider in the Bay Area next week, but next week has a bunch of stuff coming down the pipe. So we're talking about it now.
Cool.
It's based on the true story of Saroo Brierly, who's being played as an adult by Dev Patel, who you might remember from Slumdog Millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
It's the true story. So he got lost in India as a child, and he was like separated from his family, and he eventually ended up in an orphanage, and he was adopted by this Australian couple who's played by Nicole Kidman and David Wenham. So he grew up in Australia, and there's this whole side plot where he falls in love with like Rooney Mara, which, all right, whatever, sure. So the point is he eventually uses Google Earth to find his village and return home. So the first part of the movie focuses on how he got lost in that experience, and so he's played by a little kid in that point, and like that had me on the edge of my seat. And you know this movie, like it's a true story. He wrote a book. We know it'll be more or less fine, but it had me on the edge of my seat because like it was just so well done. It's like very quiet. There's not a lot of dialogue, but it's just intense, and like you feel so bad for him as a kid. And then the movie just kind of like shifts, and then he becomes an adult. And so my problem with it is it's like a very give me an Oscar film, and that's why I don't love Oscar season, because I don't love give me an Oscar films.
Sure.
But I love Dev, and I loved Slumdog Millionaire.
Yes,
I think he's a great actor.
Dev is great. I just think, there's something about like the tonal shift in it that just kind of doesn't work for me. And there's no denying that the source material is moving, and the first half, again, is really well told, but it just feels like a little manipulative. There are some moments when he's trying to figure out like the math and like using like the satellite imagery where it just felt like sort of like a Beautiful Mind, or like The Aviator, where it's just like, oh, he's going crazy. And it's not that he's like a genius or anything, but he just gets so swept up in it. And you totally get why, but at the same time, it's just sort of like, it's like cold almost. And so I think a lot of people are going to go into it thinking it's like this fuzzy, heartwarming story, which the core of the story is, like the outline of it is, but I don't know if the execution is. I will say, like, this is kind of a spoiler alert, but at the credits, there's like a scene where you see actual Saroo meet his like actual mom again, and they've met and they've been in touch, but like you see like them reunite, and it's like that to me was almost more heartwarming than the entire film, which I don't know if that says a great thing about the whole film. So because of sort of the like imbalance of tones, I'm only going to give it 3.5.
Really?
I think some people will really enjoy it. I think you'll cry probably, at least during the first half. But like overall, I was just like, it could have been better.
Okay, I'm going to go see it anyway, just because I really think Dev is a great actor.
That's fair, and I think you'll probably enjoy it. Just sort of like know what you're getting into, and that you're almost getting like 2 different films is what you're getting out of it.
Yeah. And what else do you have for us today, Dana?
Okay, so I have another biopic. This one is based on someone who you might be more familiar with. It's Jackie, so the story of Jackie Kennedy, and it's being played by Natalie Portman, who I adore. I love her so much. She's amazing. I want to say she can do no wrong, but I rewatched the Star Wars prequels over the break, and I was like, all right, you can be in movies that are wrong. Like, I don't know if that's your fault, but anyway, so it's about the days following JFK's assassination, and I was on the fence I didn't know if her portrayal was like a caricature or not. Like, a lot of it's in the voice, and she does like, I'm not even going to try and do Jackie Kennedy's voice, but at first I was like, all right, this is laying it on a little thick, and then I went back and I watched like an actual interview with Jackie Kennedy. I was like, oh, nope, nailed it. She got that right. And there's some weird like cheesy moments where they composite her into like the real historical TV interviews. Like they composite her into this famous like 1962 tour she gave to the White House.
Like a Forrest Gump thing,
exactly,
right?
like a Forrest Gump thing. And like technology has improved since then. Why is this not still like kind of visually meshing? There are some great moments in the movie. I mean, the whole movie is great. I actually really enjoyed this film, even though it's depressing as hell. There's some great dynamics between her and Bobby Kennedy, who's being played by Peter Sarsgaard. And it's about like the Kennedy family and like that legend. And I'm just gonna be honest, I like sobbed through the whole movie. I think part of it was just because I actually happened to see it on the anniversary of the assassination. I was like, oh, this is hitting home. I think I was coming down with a cold, which made me a little like sick. And I think mostly, and this is going to sound a little hyperbolic, but it made me sad about like where we are today. Like it's, the end of the film is just sort of all about legacy. Like she's obsessed with legacy. She's obsessed with planning his like funeral. It's like, how will people remember him? And I'm like, oh, how are people going to remember the next 4 years of our our lives? Like, how are we going to remember the last 8 years? You know, it's just, but I was like, okay, you know what? If we can sort of stand strong and be this sort of, like Jackie Kennedy and in this performance had to be strong and just put on a brave face and like get it done. And I feel like I was like, okay, you know what? Let's take a page out of that playbook.
And she really was in real life what she had to deal with.
Yes, absolutely. Right. And I think Natalie Portman did such an amazing job of portraying this. And again, this is a gimme an Oscar film, but I almost want to say give her an Oscar for it.
Perfect.
I think she's going to get nominated for sure. Just another kind of spoiler alert, but not, because again, these are true stories. It's rated R, and you were good. They recreate that scene. Like they recreate the assassination, and I got a little ill at that.
The part where she's trying to grab part of his brain matter, right?
Yep.
And covered in blood.
We see the grassy knoll. So if you are not a fan of gore and guts, like just a heads up, that's definitely in there. Anyway, so I thought it was a great film. I thought Natalie Portman was amazing. I'm going to give it 4.1.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to see both.
There you go.
There you go. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Dana, for coming in. It's great to have you here. Thanks for giving us the lowdown on the new movies. That's Dana Han-Klein, and you've been listening to the Mohawk Movie Review on KFOG.